Caution. The AJ and Quill show contains D&D content and is intended for a D&D audience. And, besides that, they're really weird. Hi everyone, welcome to Meta Adjacent. As always, I'm Professor AJ, and with me is my trusted companion, Quill the Dragon. Say hi, Quill.
Greetings, puny humans. We're so delighted you could meet us for dinner.
No, wait, this isn't dinner. We're doing a class.
Oh well, we can taste you anyway.
Well, that bell means it's time to get started. Open your notebooks and let's get cracking.
So what are we covering today?
Today we're going to be covering Rogue Combat Tactics for Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition.
But let's get into the lore a little bit.
Now, rogues rely on their skill and stealth to get the drop on their opponents, and they use their opponents' weaknesses to really take advantage of them.
Rogues have a knack for finding solutions to almost any problem.
They demonstrate the resourcefulness and versatility that are essential to any successful adventuring party.
Rogues devote as much of their efforts to mastering a variety of interesting skills as they do to perfecting their combat abilities.
Rogues have a broad expertise that very few of the other classes could even hope to measure up to.
When it comes to combat, rogues prioritize cunning over brute strength.
Exactly. A rogue would rather land one precise strike, hurting the opponent exactly where they need to, than to whittle them down slowly over time with smaller attacks.
Rogues get in, they hit hard, and then they get out.
Now, every town, city, and state will have its own version of a rogue.
Most of them live up to the worst stereotypes of any class.
Exactly. Burglars, assassins, thieves. These are rogues.
They're often scoundrels that organize into thieves' guilds and crime families.
Right, but plenty of rogues do operate independently.
Some rogues also make an honest living as crime investigators, locksmiths, exterminators, someone who can get a dangerous job done.
And rogues as adventurers fall on both sides of the law. A rogue could easily be a criminal or a spy employed by the government in power.
A rogue could be an uneducated thief, stealing from people on the streets, or a university professor of archaeology.
Exactly. With rogues, there's a little bit of everything for everybody.
You can find examples of rogues in pop culture quite easily.
So, Bilbo and Frodo from The Lord of the Rings, Han Solo, Carmen Sandiego, Jack Sparrow, Robin Hood, Mel from Firefly, James Bond, Star-Lord, Aladdin, Flynn Rider, Black Widow, Puss in Boots, anybody from the Mission Impossible series, Catwoman, Lupin, Sherlock Holmes, Tyrion Lannister, The Assassin's Creed, Jason Bourne, Prince of Persia, Batman, Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow, and that's just to name a few.
Why, even Conan the Barbarian could be considered a rogue.
Now, this is a special video because originally we were going to cover the Arcane Trickster Rogue.
This was to highlight how awesome Sam Riegel is.
But with the upcoming release of Candlekeep Mysteries, and what seems to be some kind of pushback for a disabled inclusive Dungeons & Dragons, we wanted to cover something a little different.
Today we're going to be covering the Daredevil Rogue archetype.
Right, this is one of the Homebrew classes that was designed by Sara Thompson for the combat wheelchair system that she designed for Dungeons & Dragons.
Now, we should tell you, this is not official material.
Exactly, this is somebody's homebrew that they released online for free to help improve the community. There is literally an amount of blood, sweat, tears, and time that a person put into this just to try to help people out. And as such, we're going to ask everybody to be respectful of both the material and the author.
She released this to enhance the community and to make it more inclusive for persons with disabilities.
Right, you don't start saying bad things about somebody who's just trying to do something nice. In our opinion, doing that would make you evil.
If we can, we'll put a link to the description. Sarah did a great job on this and we really appreciate it.
And honestly, I really love the inclusivity that a lot of games like Dungeons & Dragons are trying to employ inside their games.
Idle Champions released Sarah's character as a new playable toon inside their game. It uses the combat wheelchair game features she designed.
Right, and I like that they're working against discrimination and ableism inside these games that we all love and generally all want to enjoy.
And as far as we know, the upcoming Candlekeep Mysteries is the first time that not only one, but two openly disabled game designers worked on the project.
Right, Jen Kretchmer and Kienna Shaw, and I really hope I'm saying your names properly. And more importantly, this is an issue that means a lot to me. My wife is in a wheelchair. She was put into one 3 months after we got married. But she totally kicks ass. And I love that disabled persons are getting more representation inside these games.
And that there's a conscious effort being made to be more inclusive.
But let's get to the build. Rogues and their ability profile.
A rogue is a hit-and-run DPS fighter.
Right, because of the way a rogue is designed, their primary offensive ability should always be dexterity.
It's not required, but it makes life much easier.
And for their primary defensive ability, we'd also say that they would use dexterity.
Rogues are better at avoiding damage in combat than they would be at absorbing it.
Now, you could also make Constitution a rogue's primary defensive ability. This makes them a little bit more tough. They can stay in combat a little bit longer, but not nearly to the extent that an actual skirmisher or that a tank would.
Rogues simply aren't built to stay in melee combat for extended lengths of time.
Now, instead of Constitution making a more skirmishery type rogue, you could put your second highest stat into, say, Wisdom, and come up with more of a sniper rogue.
Rogues can excel both in melee or ranged combat.
Now, what defines a rogue?
Their sneak attack.
Right, this is an extra amount of damage that a rogue can deliver under certain conditions to creatures.
This bonus damage scales quickly as the rogue levels up, allowing them to optimize their effectiveness in combat.
Right, it starts off as an extra 1d6, and it goes up by an additional die every time the rogue gains 2 levels in this class.
Now, we've talked about combo primers and combo detonators before on this channel.
Right, combo primers and detonators are like special moves you can do that would allow you to do even more damage if they're combined than you would just having them by themselves.
A rogue is a walking combo detonator.
Right, if a rogue has advantage on its attack, or if one of their allies is within 5 feet of a creature that they're attacking, the rogue can do a sneak attack.
The advantage would be the combo primer, and the sneak attack damage would be the combo detonator.
Right, you're doing more damage with those two abilities combined than you would be able to do otherwise.
At level 2, a rogue gains cunning action.
Right, and this just simply lets you dash, disengage, or hide as a bonus action.
Cunning action really emphasizes the hit-and-run melee style of fighting most rogues are fantastic at.
And being able to hide as a bonus action gives more of a stealthy, advantage-giving idea to the rogue in general.
Remember, to hide you have to be both out of clear view of any creature you're hiding from, and you have to be quiet.
Right, hiding requires a dexterity stealth check on the rogue's part, and that's going to be contested by a perception check for whoever's trying to find them.
This will either be from the passive perception of whoever's around, or an active perception check for individuals actually looking for the rogue.
Now, what are the tactics we can use with this?
Rogues should stay half their movement speed away from the front line where the tank is.
Or where the bulk of the melee fighting is going to be.
Rogues should stay on the perimeter, keeping it clear of enemy spellcasters and other creatures.
Right, and then when they get the opportunity to, they should rush into combat using half their movement, deal
maximum damage.
Then they can use their bonus action to either dash or disengage away from the melee combat, and use the rest of their movement to get away from it.
Hence the hit-and-run style of combat.
And generally rinse and repeat these tactics for any rogue.
Their cunning action gives rogues access to many combo moves they can do in combat.
Right, so, for example, we just said they can move into combat, they can use their action to attack, they can use their bonus action to dash away.
Hit and run.
Right, let's try something else though. A rogue could use their full movement, then bonus action dash with their cunning action to move double their movement, and then use their action to attack in combat.
This is like a rogue running in to strike an enemy from out of nowhere.
Or a rogue could use its cunning action to hide, and then move, then attack using its action with advantage because it's hidden.
There's plenty of combinations available. Be creative.
Now, something about sneak attack damage. A rogue actually isn't designed around using its sneak attack every round of combat.
Rogues need to pick their opportunities to deal maximum damage.
Right, and in this tweet from Jeremy Crawford, he even says that if an ability is designed to be used all the time by a creature, it is left on all the time.
So, as a rogue, don't worry if you can't do your sneak attack every round. It's fine.
Now, unless they're a specific archery build, rogues are really designed well for melee combat.
However, unless you pump your constitution, then you shouldn't stay there.
Right, you should be using your cunning action to get in and out of combat, retreating to places that you can either hide in or take cover behind.
This can include your allies.
Right, so when you're not directly engaged in melee combat, what you're going to want to do is keep the perimeter clear of enemies, take out all the enemy marksmen and spellcasters because you're amazing at it, and when you get the opportunity, rush into the front line and help the take out high priority enemies by doing your sneak attack damage.
This is generally good advice for any rogue, and they get a lot of abilities inside the rogue skill tree to help with this.
Right, cunning action, evasion. Rogues have a lot of tools available to them.
But let's discuss the subclass.
The Daredevil Rogue, written by Sara Thompson.
As we said, this isn't an official subclass. It's a homebrew. But Sara released it free as a PDF, and if you wish to play a wheelchair user in combat, you can use this subclass in conjunction with the combat wheelchair system she designed.
Right, and we're just going to be covering the subclass and how to use it.
Subclasses for rogues help define how you fight in combat. Rogues get these defining features at levels 3, 9, 13, and 17.
Right, and we'll put a link in the description so you can go check out the combat wheelchair system that Sara designed, and you can check out her stuff.
Remember, because this isn't official content, it didn't go through the rigorous research and development phase that a lot of the other ones would have access to through Wizards of the Coast. Wizards does a lot of testing and community research when developing a subclass. An individual person just wouldn't have access to that amount.
Right. The amount of playtesting and research and development that somebody could put into this individually isn't very much compared to what a whole giant company like Wizards of the Coast could do.
As such, some of the abilities may be either under or overpowered, but don't let that fear discourage you from playing the class.
Right. Have a fun time. If you want to play a Daredevil Rogue, then do that. And we think Sara did a great job.
It's creative and inclusive, and a breath of fresh air to the disabled community.
Right. Respect. Now, at 3rd level, a Daredevil Rogue gets 2 class features.
That's Misdirection and Trickster.
Misdirection gained at 3rd level gives you proficiency in performance and deception if you don't already have it. Now, out of combat, you can use your action to make a charisma performance check to distract an opponent with advantage.
If it succeeds, all dexterity sleight of hand checks by you and your allies have advantage against that creature.
Now, we're not sure if this is a check or a save against either wisdom or insight or something, but if the check succeeds, you get to do this.
It doesn't say for how long, but presumably for as long as you are performing.
Now, if you use this ability in combat, that creature has disadvantage on any attacks it makes against you until the end of its next turn.
And because your movement confuses and disorientates the creature, you have advantage on your next attack roll against that creature.
Now, when you look at the ability, this doesn't have a time limit on it. You could do this in the 1st round of combat and not attack that creature till the 3rd, and you would still get advantage.
So long as you haven't attacked that creature yet.
And at 9th level, you get to do this to 2 creatures at once.
Misdirection recharges on a long rest.
Now, essentially, this is a dodge and a combo primer.
This makes it easier to leave melee combat with that creature.
Right, because they have disadvantage against hitting you.
And it primes your next attack to do sneak attack damage because you now have an advantage against that creature.
At level 3, you also get the Trickster subclass ability.
These are little tricky bombs you can leave behind yourself, Mario Kart style.
Now, the first one is Grease Trap.
It recharges on a short or a long rest.
Right, as an action, you can leave a 10-foot square pool of grease behind you.
The area is considered difficult terrain to any creature that starts or ends its turn in the area.
Right, that creature must then make a DC 14 dexterity saving throw, or fall prone.
The DC increases to 16 at level 13.
The next is Scatter Tax.
Also recharges on a short or a long rest.
As an action, you can leave a 5-foot square of caltrops behind you.
Creatures that enter or end their turn in this area must make a DC 14 dexterity save, or stop moving and take 1 piercing damage.
Right, the creature's speed will then be reduced by 10 feet until it has gained at least 1 hit point back through healing.
If you move at half your speed through the tax, then you don't need to make the saving throw.
And, like the other ability, at level 13 the DC increases to 16.
Oh, I love this. It's a retreat feature.
Right, this makes it easier to leave combat.
And it discourages creatures from following you.
Right, and if you're a hit-and-run style of combatant, discouraging other creatures from pursuing you is golden.
And because it uses your action, your cunning action is still available to dash, disengage, or hide.
Right, on your turn, if you're stuck in melee, you can use your cunning action to help get away from combat. Use your action to drop one of these little Bomberman-style bombs for the creature who wants to pursue you, and then keep going.
Creatures that try to pursue you will have to deal with the consequences.
Now, I like this ability. It's fun, it's flavorful, very James Bond-esque. If I was going to use this in my home game, personally, I would change the difficulty class to being 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your dexterity modifier.
This is more in line with how the other DC classes are established.
But there's nothing wrong with the way that it is. It works fine.
Another option might be to be able to activate this using your cunning action.
Right, the ability to use this as a bonus action instead, or as well, might give you a little bit more tactical options inside of combat, but honestly, the way it works is fine.
At level 9, the Daredevil gets Momentum Mastery.
Right, with the combined momentum of you and your combat wheelchair, you can now add your proficiency bonus to attacks made with your wheelchair.
If you're confused, it's because in the combat wheelchair, it says you can use your wheelchair to make attacks. This just lets you add your proficiency bonus to the damage from these attacks.
Right, as a wheelchair user, you're not really going to be without your wheelchair, so always being able to add your proficiency bonus to the weapon damage for something you're always going to have on you is pretty good.
And it's a flavorful addition to this rogue.
Now, at level 13, you get the Rough and Tumble class feature.
You can use this once per long rest.
Now, when you're knocked prone by either a creature or a spell, you can then use your reaction to grab hold of any creature within 5 feet of you.
Provided they are medium or smaller.
And you can drag them down prone with you.
The creature must then make a DC 16 dexterity saving throw with advantage to avoid falling prone.
And any attack made against that creature now has advantage. Now, this is a little different from the prone condition, which only grants advantage to creatures within 5 feet of it, and disadvantage to any creature further than that. This lets everybody have advantage.
Well, except the Daredevil, because if they're prone as well, they have disadvantage on attacks, so it would just be a straight roll for them.
Now, as a fun mechanic, if the creature who is being pulled down with you rolls a 1 on its save, you can then pull them underneath your wheelchair and do additional damage. And if instead you're actually near an ally or somebody that you like, you can pull them down with you anytime you use your rogue's evasion feature, which you gain at level 7, and in doing so are able to share that evasion feature with that creature.
Many tanks and skirmishers would love to have a Daredevil Rogue next to them when they get hit by a fireball.
And at level 18, you can do this twice per long rest.
I like this ability. It's very party utility friendly.
Right, it grants advantage to your allies against any creature you pull prone with you, or it allows other allies to also take advantage of your evasion feature to help protect them in combat. Now, this ability does give you more incentive to be a melee character as opposed to a ranged character, but you could still use it in either way.
But would we change anything?
It's not necessary to change anything. This ability works fine. But like the little traps that they leave, I would change the DC to be 8 plus their proficiency bonus plus their dexterity modifier, just so that it scales as they level up.
We would also reword it so that it can activate anytime you're knocked prone.
And I actually think this ability is a little bit underpowered. I would say that if you pull a creature underneath you, the additional damage you should do should be equal to your sneak attack damage.
This should happen about 1 out of every 10 times. So why not make it sneak attack damage to pack even more of a punch?
You could also change the ability so that instead of activating on a roll of a 1, you could activate it anytime they fail that saving throw by 5 or more.
But these are just suggestions. The ability is perfectly fine as is.
Exactly. You did a great job, Sarah. We love it.
At level 19 you get Like the Wind, and it recharges once on a long rest.
Now, it says level 19, but we think it might actually meant to say level 17, because that's when most rogues gain their feature.
As an action, you can zoom around the battlefield. Opportunity attacks against you during this action have disadvantage.
And every opportunity attack that misses you causes that creature to then be stunned until the end of that creature's next turn.
This is killer. You move around provoking opportunity attacks at disadvantage and stunning every creature that miss.
Right, there's no save here. If they miss, they're stunned.
This is a very party-friendly super combo primer.
Right, ask any monk, the stun condition is amazing.
Especially for melee characters.
And there's nothing quite as fun as rolling around a whole battlefield, stunning everybody, and then having your party wizard hit everybody with, say, a fireball, because they're all going to automatically fail that dexterity save against the fireball because they're stunned.
Remember, a stunned creature is incapacitated.
Right, that means that they can't take actions or reactions, and anything that removes your action also removes any bonus action.
They can't move, and they can only speak falteringly.
Stunned creatures automatically fail any dexterity or strength saving throw.
And attack rolls against these creatures have advantage.
Now, at the very least, this ability is going to ruin whatever creature who stuns turn it is. They won't be able to take any actions or reactions. But if a creature's turn happens immediately after yours, they'll just be stunned for that turn and then no longer stunned, so your allies and you won't get any more further advantages against attacking that creature.
A way to enhance this is to have all the creatures stunned until the end of your next turn.
Right, this would allow your allies to take more advantage of all the stunned creatures, and you yourself could even take advantage of it. But, again, there's nothing wrong with this ability. That works fantastically as is. And that's about it. We hope this gets you started using rogues, and specifically the combat wheelchair Daredevil Rogue.
Sara did a fantastic job designing this. It's flavorful and creative.
And, honestly, it helps to add a more inclusive character into your campaign. It's important to understand that disability does not equal inability.
Everyone can be a hero.
Right, being different isn't something to be ashamed of.
And it's not something to be afraid of.
Most heroes inside of our favorite stories celebrate being different. They're prime examples of being different.
Different is beautiful.
Right, and it doesn't matter if you're a tiefling in a wheelchair, a drow with a prosthetic arm, or a bunch of kick-ass drag queens playing Dungeons and Dragons. So long as you show up to your game and express your courage, your uniqueness, your talent, and your nerve, and you do that with love and with authenticity, then in our opinion, you are a hero. I like playing disabled characters inside Dungeons and Dragons. My main and one of my favorite characters right now is my drow Hexblade, who has a prosthetic golden arm. They had a very real piece of the world into Dungeons and Dragons. And being able to play with and enjoy and understand better people with disabilities or anybody who needs more inclusion, I think is a fantastic thing to add into any game.
Be different. It's okay.
Try to love each other always.
Be nice. It's not that hard.
Dungeons and Dragons is supposed to be about teamwork and friendship and community and working towards the greater good.
Everybody is welcome to do that. It doesn't matter if you're in a wheelchair or use a cane or if you have no disability whatsoever.
It's important to love the person, not the label.
And that concept extends beyond disabilities. And we want to thank Sara Thompson for taking the time and effort to make this wheelchair combat system for Dungeons and Dragons. It couldn't have been easy, and we honestly appreciate everything you've done.
Now, we know it can be scary playing with a disabled character or the idea of disability in a game for a lot of people. I've personally heard people say that playing with a wheelchair user in the campaign party takes them out of their fantasy, it becomes unrealistic, and for them I have one very important thing to say. If you can believe in dragons and real magic and wizards and space squids who eat your brain and have psychic powers and miniature giant space hamsters and unicorns and talking planets, but you can't believe that a wheelchair user could also be a good adventurer, then you are a problem and you need to do better.
Everyone can be a hero, including you.
Right? And sometimes being a hero is just being welcoming and loving and open to other people. So, have a good one. We love you. Try to love each other, and it's time for school yet?
Bye.
Yeah, 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 yeah.